you got started young then.
Yeah,
Amongst legends, right?
it's the guys.
Yeah.
It's Bill Sienkiewicz and Jim Lee and Frank Miller. It's the guys.
Yeah.
To meet the legends were Jack Kirby, Jim Cole, and Joe Kubert.
Yeah, okay.
We all had people we greatly admired and stole.
Really?
Yeah, who are some of your influences on your work that you would say?
I would say a lot of the newspaper artists. And you have Will Eisner. And Tom Sutton was a big one for me. I didn't read regular times. I read the Green and Erie.
Okay.
Superheroes just never interested me. So right from the bat, right out the bat, I was like black and white comics, very distinctive art styles. Frank Robbins was another big one. Currently, I'm obsessed by a Spanish artist named Jordan Brunet. Kind of comes from that same school.
Okay.
You make everything with a brush.
Yeah, I know this stuff, everything is really good with the cube.
And they were good buddies.
Oh, really? When I was, so, you're a kid, you want to be able to draw exactly what's in front of you. So, sure, Jack Kirby was amazing and all that, but the people who looked realist to me were like Neil Adams and Kurt Swan and people like that. But I didn't realize Jim McFarlane was influenced by Neil. But what I didn't realize was Neil was as stylized as anybody else was. He just sort of hit it with it. Right. And since I worked at the studio, I had access to Neil's files. So I got to see his influences that made me look more like Neil because I was looking for who he was looking at. Okay. Plus, I think the reason I became an inker, like everybody else, I wanted to be a pencil. But Gil King in an interview said he should have been an inker first just to learn the business. And then it took off, and I got all the work I could handle, and I would rather, I'm a painter too. If you come by my table, you can see what I'm painting. And so I would rather spend 5 hours painting a picture than drawing a page, but as an inker, I got to ink Kurt Swan's Superman, Gene Colan's Dracula, and John Buscema's Conan, so I got to collaborate with all these people who I idolized, and then could go back to the studio and just do what I wanted to do for me.
Yeah. You know, when you look at Gene Colan's pencils, I've always been like, I can't imagine being an inker having to handle that. What was your approach to his work?
Well, Gene and I were big fans of each. I mean, he's Gene Colan. You have to be a big fan of Gene Colan. But Gene also liked my paintings. So because I work in tone and value and all that stuff, Gene's stuff made sense to me because he just put down a gray, and I had to figure out how to make it a printable gray. There's a guy named Alan Weiss who I've done between 445 and 450 different pencils. Alan's the hardest. Because Alan wants every line to be just like this and don't change a thing. And Gene was, yeah, you figure it out.
Yeah.
So it gave me a lot more latitude.
Did you like
Who's your favorite inker on Gene?
Well, you know, everybody loves Tom Palmer on Gene because it looked great, but the guy who was closest to the intention of what Gene drew was Al Williams.
Al Williams is a fantastic.
Yes.
I think that's something we lost in this industry is the idea of the inker. You know, a lot of people are doing it themselves, which I like, but they're doing it digitally, and it seems like it's making it easier, but at the same time, it makes the work seem simple and like I don't know. There's something. There's not a tactile nature to it. It feels like it's. When I see y'all's work, I see grit, I see texture, and I absolutely love that stuff. What do you think about the industry today and how it's changed with the digital?
Well, Marvel used to have John Buscema and Sal Buscema and some other people laying out their books, which meant they didn't put in all the details. It just gave you the good, solid storytelling. And then they'd get in wonderful people like Palmer, and Giordano, and Adams, and Alcala. But the editor never exactly knew what was going to come back constantly. So as it evolved, there's you must be used to this. So as the editors started to demand the stuff to be much tighter, so there was nothing ambiguous about it. So the inker became more or less a tracer, sometimes not a good tracer, sometimes a great tracer. But when I inked McGuire on the Justice League of America, he's a wonderful draftsman, and everything's put in, but I would add a little flourish, a little. There's things a brush can do that a pencil can't do. There's a way of using a pen in a way that a pencil can't do. So that's like the next 10% to push it along. Because since the 40s, editors were trying to figure out how to read, publishers were trying to figure out how to read the use of pencil to save money and smoothing. And as a matter of fact, there's a series that Bendis and Bagley did called Brilliant, that they tried to publish from pencils, and then they called me up and something good up there. Nobody was reading something.
Yeah.
So they apologized that they tried to cut the inker out because they just felt the stuff didn't have any flourish and personality, and then they hired me to go back and re-ink the books.
Okay.
So yeah, an inker is.
There are artists out there now that maybe shoot straight with their pencil.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I'm saying there might be like another layer they could do with it. To explain what it is, that's cool.
Very exciting.
Yes. Right. A composer of music takes a blank sheet of paper and makes something. He creates something from nothing. And then he hands it to a musician and says, "Here, don't hurt my baby. Okay, I have an intention of what I want you to do." And then the musician goes, "All right, am I going to use a piano or a guitar or a piccolo? Because it's going to be all the same notes, but depending on what you use will change the intention." So if the guy says, "Okay, I'm going to use a guitar, but is it going to be flamenco, classical, jazz?" So even though everything's the same, that
Tuning matters too.
yeah, well, I don't know much about music, but I know that because this person is handed over to a collaborator, they can ruin it, keep it the same, or amplify it. So as an inker, I want to be faithful to what was handed to me so that the pencil doesn't say, "Oh no, Rubinstein again, he's going to erase my stuff." Because inking is very boring if you do it all the same way. So I try to figure out what to do to bring out the best of a person and hopefully not change along.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
Jake, do you have any thoughts on modern comic art and the way it's evolved over the decades?
Yeah, well, I think it's, and I understand digital, it saves time, it's very fast, it's easy to make corrections. And this is a really tough business to be in. Because it's not just, when we were growing up, it was an American art form. Well, now it's an international art form. So I can hire some kids in Argentina that will do an amazing job for like half the price.
Yeah.
So it's really difficult to make a living at it. And as you know, our wages haven't changed since the 70s.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm really fortunate. I'm one of the exceptions is that I do what I do, and I don't have to work for Marvel or DC. I do what I do. I have complete control over it. I never have to make any of those sacrifices. But yeah, it's a very strange, difficult life right now.
Yeah. Did they ever pursue you, Marvel or DC or anybody like that?
Yeah, with the idea, everybody who has a personal involvement with, I'm just, pretty much exploring my mental illness on paper, so depression, anger issues. The problem with the superhero books is that the characters the exact same at the end as it was at the beginning. So there's no room for the character to grow. Even lettering is normally not so much of an investment to make on something I don't know.
Yeah.
Did you ever let anybody else do your work?
No. My pencil, because I've been doing it my whole life, it's just like my pencils are really, really loose. Because I'm thinking in my mind when I'm laying it out. Most people can't. They're even looser than John the Shapers. There's a circle for a head there.
Yeah.
Did you ever write a story for some other artist and be pleased by what they came up with?
Oh yeah, I've worked with a lot of other artists. Sometimes I'm a little bit of a control freak. because I have very specific vision of what I want, you know. But I've been really delighted with some of the things I've done. Did one with a French artist, a pro book called Curari. And he's very cartoony, almost an anime style. But he did a tremendous job. It was a tough script too. You know. And I did the Alan Moore thing where I described everything in the room, you know. And then it went the next step. I told him why it needed to be this kind of refrigerator or that kind of car. Because,
Yeah.
And plus he was French, so you know, and this was in 1970s in America, so he had to do tons of research, and he went above it, really.
You know, what you were saying about the author. Sure, you get incredible stuff all done by Will Eisner and all done by Frank Frazetta, and you can't match it. But sometimes you get a synergy, like you know, I don't know if you've been to, but Simon and Garfunkel are fine alone, but together they're better.
Yeah, exactly.
And when John Buscema inks himself in Conan, it looks great. But when Tony DeZuniga inks it, it's my favorite. When Kirby is inked by Simmons, there's something that the two put together. So, you know, it's like Robert De Niro and Scorsese. It's like, why do they keep making movies together? Because both keep bringing out the best in each other.
Oh, yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I love your work with Frank Miller. I love Klaus Janson and Frank Miller. And the inking is something that I absolutely love. And it's something that I grew up, you know, when I started realizing what duo shade was, the screen tone, I was so fascinated with the ideas that people were out there like with exacto knives and blades, like cutting these things and making it by hand, and the way you splatter, ink wash, and so many techniques like in the pro, like you're using all these different.
And I still do that. I don't do anything digitally. I don't even have computers. Everything I do is still ink on paper. I have zip tone left over from the 80s. Zip tone is like it's a clear sheet. It's kind of like tape with glue on one side, but all the dots are printed on it. If you look real close at it and you kind of print, it breaks down the dots. So all the gray tones are dots, and I have to cut those out with an X-Acto knife and stick it on the artwork to get the tones where I want. But that's still the way I work, because that's the joy, is creating something and having something afterwards. And I know my friends that work digitally, they have nothing afterwards. They have a file. They don't have an original they can sell or hang on the wall. And when you go to a museum that has nothing but prints hanging on the wall, no, the original is very important, especially to me.
Yeah. Well, Brent Anderson does a book called Astro City. If you've never heard of it, it's really great stuff. And the anchor was leaving, and Brent told me that he thought of hiring me to do it, which I would have been thrilled because I love the series. And then he got into computers, and he found out that he could pencil or ink or whatever an entire city scene in about a quarter of the time if he penciled it. So you'll notice I haven't inked any Astro Cities recently. You know, because he just said, oh yeah, this goes much faster, much easier. But at some point, you know, when you do stuff on a computer, you see it, but you don't feel it. And after a while, Brent looked for commissions to do just so he could remember what it was like to hold a pencil.
There's joy in dragging a brush across the page, or just the sound of a quill scratching on the paper that I really love. It's that mental release that you're like, well, I have this character defect where I gotta make things harder for myself every time, you know. So, if it's not hurting, you're not growing. If you're not failing, you're not learning.
This the comic book industry, as much as we love it, it's definitely had its ups and downs. What are some of the challenges you dealt with in this industry during your time?
Well, I mean, I'm the blessing right here. The first book, I mean, I've been doing comics since I was 16, but the first book I did completely by myself, it was just a million copies in print in like 18 different languages, so I had the lottery my first time playing, so I've been able to avoid all the politics and the cutbacks games that all my friends have done. So I've been lucky. I own my character, I still get paid, every time they make a horrible movie, I still get paid. So I've done really, really well for myself.
Yeah, like even Dave Simmons' service, and he did it for 30 years as his own boss. It's an industry like anything else. There was an implosion in 1999. Suddenly, comic books went from 42 million units a month to 7. People were looking for work. As an inker, I'm reliant on other people doing the work or asking for me or calling me, and now computers take over. But it's better than working for a living. Because it's the only thing I've ever done, and I get up and I feel like getting up and I do it. I mean, sure, you want the work to come in and you hope you're not unemployed. But it's mostly fun, and it's your job. The problem is, okay, we'd like you to get 20 pages of the Expo. Oh, okay, great. It's due tomorrow. Oh, great. And the thing is with editors, if you say no once, they'll never call you again. And you turn around and it's 3 months.
Or if you're late.
Or if you're late, or if you're live. But you want to be professional. And you want to say, you'll be in on Tuesday and don't show up on Friday. But the editor will call you up and just say, oh, this happened. You want 86 issues of the X-Men? Yeah, sure. And I was doing Justice League at the time. And then since the first one's late, of course it's late. So you churn it out, and you sacrifice everything else in life. You don't go anywhere, you don't talk to anybody, and stuff. So I get the thing done. And then like a week later, the editor calls up and says, well, where's the next one? He says, what do you mean? We just finished the last one. Oh, didn't I tell you it was a bi-weekly?
Oh.
So I'm doing 3-month group books in a month, 2 months.
Wow. I mean, and I love what I do. There's, such joy in it. But it's still a job. It still requires a lot of discipline. I get up at 6 o'clock every morning, thanks to a cat that's Chloe. And by 9 o'clock, I'm at the drawing board. That's my job. Some days there's 1,000 other things I'd rather be doing. You're watching Asian porn, or playing with the cat, or Asian cat porn. But it's my job, and I love it. So, I'll force myself to go to the drawing board, and within an hour or so, I'm having fun. And I forget about the Asian porn briefly.
Joe Kubert said, your first job is not the hardest one, because it's your second job. Because if you spend 6 months writing samples, and now they want it in 6 days, what now?
Yeah.
And when I got my first job, I got a 6-pager, and I think it took 3 weeks to do it, because I watch TV, something else, ink a little bit, go back
Use an
to
actual ruler.
And I realized this part of this whole thing, now I can do like 6 pages in 2 days if I do the rest, But the thing is, if I get up, go to work, somebody's waiting for you, there are expectations, there are other people waiting. Very often the inker is practically the last on the relay race. And the letterer is waiting, the colors is waiting, and all that sort of stuff. So it's like anything else. We're lucky, because most people don't really like their work. Most people do it for money, most people have to get up and dress a certain way and go to an office and go to this.
Or get stuck in this repetition too, where you do the same drawing over and over and over again. And like I said, I like to challenge myself, And I see you do too, where it's like, well, I'm tired of working in ink right now. Let's do watercolor, let's do oil, let's do wash, let's try something else. It gets very boring and repetitious, I mean, how many times is Spider-Man's head in one single issue? It's like 90 times. You're drawing that same thing over and over again.
Well, for those of you who don't have a life, who want to look at my career, I rarely stayed on a book more than 6, 7, 8 issues or something, because I was just bored out of it. But I was on Superman for 7 years with something like 7 different pencils. So just when, like if I'm doing a regular book, I go, can you give me a 6-pager just to cleanse my palette, just to make me think about something different today and get back to it? Or like when I do my watercolors, I make like a 14 brushes like this thing. I may do the whole thing with one big brush to see what will happen. Yeah. Or I'll sometimes you do a panel and go, all right, well I always light it from this direction. So this direction. Let's just see, let's break it up. Some people are the same thing, like this, just turn it off. You know, but we get it. No, absolutely. I mean, I once turned to John Buscemi, and I said, John, do you find that you ever have to repeat your figures? And he went, oh, give me a break. Of course he did, because he was going like 6 pages a day.
I would have sworn there was John Buscemi with stencils.
I know. But they were still of the highest quality.
Yeah.
You know, bad John
It's a
Buscemi.
constant story.
Yeah. And graphic.
Yeah. What's it like seeing your stuff adapted into other like movies? You know, obviously the Pro movie and different ones of that. And then Joe, you worked on tons of stuff that wound up on screen too. What's that feeling like? What's that?
Well, when it's done well, it's amazing. You know, more often than not, it's hard to. You know, and I get it. You know, it's a film is a huge collaborative endeavor. It's like waging a small war. You know, you've got 200 people trying to get this thing done in time for a set amount of money. So it's. I mean, I really love the first film. You know, it's not the book exactly, but they did the absolute best they could with the time and money they had.
Yeah.
So that was really happy. But there's been other things, you know, not to mention, like, I won't do it anymore in such colossal ways, where I've worked on film projects for, 18 months, 2 years. I was Dr. Morales that I did a bunch of monster design,
The one for the breakers?
yeah. And the director gets fired, or they decide not to do it, and then just all that stuff goes in the closets. Where I don't own it, I don't have any of the originals, and so it's just like, there's 2 years of my life gone, and I have nothing to show for it. I mean, it pays really well, but it can be. I worked on a Refn, the record Refn, we did live.
Okay.
He was going to do a remake of Logan's Run. I got super excited about that. And, worked with him for like 18 months, I didn't think it was going to be spectacular. But then he had a movie come out that bombed, and they pulled all the money. So all that stuff sitting in the back rooms there. I don't own any of it. There's nothing I can do with it.
Yeah.
So it get me harder.
I bet you ask any artist you meet, they've got lots of projects back in the studio that never happened. It started to happen, they got killed, they got 21 out of 22 pages done, and they went, we're not good. When they did the Wolverine movie in Japan, I was very disappointed. It was a good James Bond movie, but it had nothing to do with my miniseries other than it was the same names of the characters in Japan. Really disappointed. But in the last Avengers Endgame, when Thanos is beating up the Avengers, that was the closest I ever saw to my work come to life. It was really kind of cool. Dave Cockrum told me when he went to the first X-Men movie, he just cried through the whole movie. Not because he wasn't getting money for it, but because these things that he just made up in his bunk when he was in the Navy had come to life. They were doing stuff. So it's kind of thrilling.
Yeah, it's still amazing to me to like walk through the store or the mall, or I think you just see something that I created. It's on t-shirts, there's tons of toys, and it's surreal. That's something I sat on my bed drawing on a piece of plywood. It's so ingrained in the culture now.
Yeah.
And somebody has to take technique for brand goth to the masses. I just think maybe I was a little ahead of the curve. I think it would have happened.
Yeah, you wonder if I go to Hot Topic and stand in front of the Pro stuff and go, I'm James Bond.
I love my anonymity. It's just like, my neighbors don't know what I do. It's just, I'm cheerleading on the drug dealers. nice car, nice house.
You're that weird guy who comes out of his bathroom and gets nailed.
Yeah, I have in my underwear, but they're colorful boxers.
Mine are underwear.
So yeah, but I don't, I love my anonymity. don't want them to know what I do. I mean, they see these beautiful models coming in all the time. I don't know, or I'm a jiggle, I don't know what,
It's not jiggle, I'm going with jiggle.
so, yeah, I think it's cool to be outside of it and not feel, I don't feel connected to it.
But you know, when you do comic books, people think they want to give you for Christmas like a Superman tie.
Yeah, right.
I do have a couple of programs.
Are they handmade?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So I did keep those.
Cool. What do you think about the current state of this industry? You know, y'all worked in this industry, you've seen it go through so many changes. What do you think about where it's at right now?
Comic books is
We're the guys on the Titanic playing the violin.
yeah, maybe. I started working at Marvel in 1977, and it was kind of fun in the family. You go up and there'd be silly string fights going up and down the halls, and all kinds of strange things on the walls, and Christmas parties, and people knew it. We used to live in the tri-state New York City area, so everybody kind of knew each other. They had to go and deliver the work by hand, because FedEx didn't exist. And then eventually they put up bulletproof glass in reception, and you can't get in. And I was working for Marvel. I live in LA now. I was working for Marvel. I said, hey, I'm going to be in town. Can I come by and say hi? I not only had I never met my editor, I'd never even spoken to my editor. It was all email. You want to do this? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's amazing that Joe Center 90 issues to Jack Kirby and they never met.
Right. And you know, I was there the minute he did meet at a convention. No, maybe New York. But anyway, so I said, I'm coming to New York. I'd like to say hi. He says, oh no, we don't want people coming up here. He says, well, you know, no, we don't want people. You know, so it used to be family, it used to be fun, it used to be whatever, and now it's like very corporate, and
There's so much money to be made on this stuff. And right now, I think comics kind of, they're subservient to the movies. It's something they can, it's free advertising until they get a new movie out.
Yeah.
Or like Martin, it's strip mine all the good stories.
Yeah.
There's really nothing out there that, and I think it's, unfortunately, instead of just going in and telling a story and making a good comic book, everybody's end goal is to get a Netflix miniseries. They're doing a comic, a 12-issue comic because they want a TV show.
well, that's a Men in Black. They can find the next Men in Black, which I
Most people don't even know that as a comic book first.
they didn't sell more than 5,000 units. But you know, when you're not getting much money in comic books, which is redundant, nobody's paying any attention. When it's a $200 million movie, everybody's paying attention. You know,
And now you're lucky if you get your name on the credit roll.
Yeah.
So some of them, on most people, they didn't, they would send you a check and advice set on the back of the advice. Endorsing this check, you relinquish all rights throughout history. Right. And so nobody owned anything. Now they're giving, some just pacify them and stop any ugly lawsuits. They're giving the creators, a little bit of money.
well, Starlin did it above what the amount was, but because they decided to make Thanos as a thread throughout all the Marvel movies, they gave him money in advance so he wouldn't sue them later for his piece of the action.
Yeah.
But those are sort of sounding cynical.
Yeah, we're
aggressive. You don't want to do
yeah,
it.
so that's how
Yeah, but it's. I don't know about you, but comic book kept me alive as a kid. It was the stuff I wanted to read, escape from. I think Spider-Man is the greatest comic book character ever existed because he's this sensitive kid. Nobody likes him. He reads. He wishes somebody would like him. He got powers. He got handsome, and he got all that stuff, and nobody liked him anyway. So you could identify with him and go, yeah. Now, of course, that he's a international journalist with a supermodel wife, we can still all identify. Which is why I think in the last Spider-Man movie, they threw him into that crappy room and said, feel sorry for Peter. Yeah, let's get him back to his roots.
Do you have any advice for people pursuing careers in the industry?
do something else.
Back to Sarah.
I mean, it's, you have to have an unstoppable passion. This is not like what they had. There's no way you're going to be deterred. That's the only way you're going to make a living at it. So it's a tough business. There's a joke in comics that, what's the difference between a large pizza and a comic book artist? A large pizza can feed a family of 3.
As mentioned earlier, I'm a painter. And it's all been done already, and it's all been done better.
Yeah.
But why do I do it? Because I have to. And I have to get up, and I see colors that I want to work with, and a subject that I want to work with, and so forth and so on.
We look at art and get inspired, and we want to not necessarily imitate it, but we want to try that in our artwork. Those colors we use, that kind of composition.
And the thing is, and we're at a comic book convention, and people are saying nice things to us and shaking our hand and thanking us for their childhood and with money. And most artists in history did a piece of artwork and hoped somebody would buy it someday. I have people from all over the world writing me saying, if you're not too busy, could you please do me a drawing? I says, yeah, just give me money. So I've been to 14 different countries in the world. I've been to Kuwait and Amsterdam and Paris and London, and people say, you know, there are benefits, but the only thing that exists is now. It's great to get fan mail, it's great to get accolades, it's great to get comps of your stuff out, but can you enjoy your life now, doing what you're doing now? And you know, there's a book, Do What You Love and the Money Will Come. You did what you loved and the money will come. So do it because you want to do it. If you get successful, right? If you don't have to work at Walmart or Reader, that's great too. You know, but you know, like every creative person, like Rembrandt did the Night Watch, but he still painted another 30 years. Da Vinci, you know, and people write their great American novel, and they still write because they need to. And that's what it comes down to. I think every artist is musicians. Yeah.
You have to have a passion for it.
And I think everybody's creative, even if it's
flower every little kid loves to draw. Every kid, you know, it's fun to get deterred from that.
Yeah.
But I'm wasting your time, or just think of how different it would be if kids were encouraged. You know? Both of my kids love to draw. They're amazing. They're better than I was at their age. You know.
Do it because you want to.
Yeah, good advice. All right, we can open up for, we got some time for a couple questions. Does anybody?
First of all, I can't talk about the new movie.
Yeah, except for
Yeah, we have an agreement that I won't talk about it, and they won't sue me for $1 million.
Fair enough.
Literally, that's what the non-disclosure agreement said.
Okay.
$1 million.
Wow. Yeah.
Can you tell us if you're excited about the new movie? What you've seen?
I think like everybody else, I'm a little shocked for what they did with it. I mean, I read the script, and I decided I didn't want to be involved in it. They offered me a lot of money, and I still said no. Like, just go, I made my movie. Go make your movie, make the best thing you can. You know, and then I just hope for the best, you know. I will say that they sent me like a 10-minute, like a super long trailer, and I didn't absolutely hate what I saw. But if you can't make a movie within 10 minutes, you screw it up enormously.
What do you think about that character design?
Same thing you do.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody have any questions for Joe?
No, I'd like to thank you again. I'd like to know about your inking technique and how it's evolved. Say, did you?
What's your favorite medium to use?
My favorite.
I love the technique.
I use two different kinds of things. One is pen painting, which is thinner. One is brushing, which is more like FW or
Yeah, but what brand?
FW or black stock or something. No, well, yeah, kind of, right. It's you know, I work with several different kind of pens, several different kind of brushes. Sometimes I'll take the back of a chopstick and whittle it down and use that for effect. There's effects you do with fingers, right? There's toothbrush, right? There's certain bodily fluids that wind up on your pages whether you like it or not. You know, I've always thought you could like clone an inker from the pages if you did.
Oh, yeah.
DNA.
In the future, instead of Jurassic Park, we have Linker Park, right? It's like when they come up and pull the
Oh, that was pretty
plane
bad.
out.
Like I said, I get, like I'm making build some cabbage, and he's got a very kinetic kind of a choppy line. So I'll pick a hard pen, like a 102 or something like that. Or I'll be making somebody like December, which is more of a brushy kind of line, and I'll pick up a 108, which is flexible. And as an artist, you try something new. One day you just buy a color at the store that you've never heard of before, and suddenly it becomes your favorite color for 6 months. And I wrote a book once about how to be an inker, and I walked it around San Diego Con, and people went, "Who would want to buy that book?" And so it never happened. And then Gary Martin comes out with his 3 books. So if you want to be an artist, and you want to be a comic book artist, for God's sakes, look at something else besides comic books, and look at reality, and look at how somebody's done the job before, and realize that you can do something in one way this week and do it just the opposite next week and see how that feels. Like I said, it's really boring if you do it all the same way and you do a portrait every week. And it's just, like people hire me to do the Wolverine miniseries #1 cover dozens and dozens of times. And I'm happy to, and it's great, and it pays the bills and all that sort of stuff. And then I have to go do a watercolor one where I start to begin with me.
Cleanse your palette.
Yeah, little sorbet.
Yeah. You got a question?
Joe, who has the loosest pencils and who has the tightest pencils that you think?
Well, I mean, they go beyond pencils, the layouts, which are just sort of choppy strokes, and that's John B. Summer, except the storytelling is there, the drawing is there, and I have to put it all together. And then I discovered Arthur Adams, and Arthur doesn't, he gives you every single line you want, and I'm bored to death to ink his work because there's no place for me in it. So I want a little bit of room to express myself.
And Arthur's better when he's
A lot of people are.
Is there something that you guys have done that hasn't made the jump from comic to screen that you would like to see make the jump?
Well, I don't think that way. I just want to make the best book I can. And I think pretty much everything I've done has been an option for a movie, which can be, like I said, it's exciting at first and then it becomes heartbreaking later. So,
I like that.
yeah.
I did a miniseries for Dark Horse called, that's a problem. What is it called? Right. Arch Enemies. And it's 2 guys who share a rent-controlled apartment in Queens, New York, because rent control means you can afford it. They hate each other, but they can't move out. And it turns out that there are supervillain and superhero who fight and try to kill each other who don't know that they're also roommates. And it was good artwork by a guy named Yvel Boucher. And it was optioned for a movie, and I was expecting to ride it at 6 Flags. But so nothing has come of it.
Yeah, well, there was a point in time, and it was the Tim Burton Batman movie that made comics popular again. And so every studio went around buying up every comic property they could. And that's when the program bought as well. But, I don't think they realized how much time, money, and effort goes into making those things.
Yeah, I have a question for you. As you were trying to figure out who the character was he ever the Raven? Was he ever the Vulture? Was he ever anything else?
It's a cool question.
I just kind of settled on that. I had a full-time job. I worked at a Ford dealership, worked on cars. And just every day at the end of the day, I would come out and there'd be crows sitting all over my car. Out of all the ones in the parking lot, which I just thought was really bizarre. And so it always kind of stuck to that. I mean, briefly, I thought about, there's a line in Alice in Wonderland called Crazy as a March Hare. But I was like, I don't know if I can do a sinister looking rabbit.
I believe in you.
Maybe I'll do that in the next one.
Yes. Joe, have you ever finished a project and the penciler not been happy with the outcome?
Yeah, have you ever been yelled at?
Those scum? Those people are not tasty. I got a job to do, and the editor decided that how I should do it was the opposite of what I thought I should do. And I needed to work, and I needed the money, and I ate the thing, and the penciler hated it as well he should have. And then the editor went, oh, no, okay, do the other one. Okay, and I think the guy hated me ever since. It's like, you got a boss. You got a boss, and you can, I mean, if I can afford, I had a client once who said, all right, I finished the whole thing. And he said, all right, I'll give you extra money to do this. I'll go, no, the work won't be as good. I don't care about the extra money. I'm sticking to my guns, but I could afford it that time. The other time was after the 1999 implosion where I wasn't getting much work. So, you know, I want the penciler to like what I did, and I don't want anybody to dread, oh God, they gave you my job again.
How does that division work now, where the original artwork would be like the artist, the penciler got something, the inker got something, and the writer got some of the original artwork for a while there.
Yeah. The inker, when it's strictly inking, it's supposed to get a third of the book. When it's layouts, he gets half of the book. For a while there, the writer was given like 2 pages of the original art. So Craig Russell did this beautiful Dr. Strange annual, and he asked to see the artwork, and then he took his share. And then when they were going to give Mark Wolfman his share, all he found was lettering that was scraped off the pages. He says, this is what you did, here's your lettering. And he kept his artwork. And then I don't think the writer should get it. You know, they get a percentage of the royalties. And nowadays, because a lot of this stuff is done electronically and digitally, well, I mean, there are people. Mark Bagley would send me a page every morning of the Fantastic Four digitally. I print it out, I ink it, right? And supposedly, if Mark, let's say round numbers, the page was worth $100 to sell, because mine was the blue line was only worth 40, because the pencil never actually touched it, right? So that was the division.
Have you had problems actually with this lately too, where if it's inked on blue lines and not pencils, it's worth less?
But that's what I'm saying. 40% of the yeah.
It's not what penciler will do it in scan it and email it to you, and then you print it out, you know, on comic book paper in blue, which doesn't photograph. There's a reason for it. It's just like, are those pages worth less? Because the actual penciler never touched them.
Right, and then you get into what's it worth and why is it worth it? Is it a good piece of artwork? Do you like it? Is it resaleable? Is that what you're buying it for?
Right.
You know, in the old days, you could buy a page of John Buscema's Conan without Conan on it for $25. So it's still beautiful, but of course I understand people want a splash page, they want action, and they don't want to be got. But you know, as an art lover, I buy pages with just people talking because they're great drawings.
And if you want to be an inker or penciler, you have to look at original art, which is to see close how it's done.
That's what those IDW books are great about, because I get papers and things, artwork.
Absolutely. All right, that's the time we have for today. So everybody give a round of applause.
Good job, moderator.
Thank you. I know.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Complete nerve authority.